Hi, it's me again. I know what you're thinking. Oh man, I thought this course was over. Now I have to listen to this guy drone on for another lesson? If it makes you feel any better, the feeling's mutual there, buddy. The thing is, I thought we were all done too. But our engineers have this pesky habit of adding more and more cool things to RidePlayer. Unfortunately for you, they just added a feature so cool that we felt it was worthy of its own lesson. And so our jungle cruise sets off once again. Now wave goodbye to all those people standing on the dock. You aren't going to see them for 2.5 weeks. Just kidding. You're never going to see them again. Since you're an incredibly attentive student, I'm sure you remember how we used RidePlayer's network audio interface to patch audio outputs to our RideAmp amplifier. Well, what if I told you that this network audio interface goes both ways? Yes. Not only can you patch audio outputs to external devices like amplifiers, you can also patch audio sources in to RidePlayer as well. But why would I want to do that, Scott? You ask with that puzzled look on your face. Well, I'm glad you asked, my friend, because there are several really cool things you can do with this feature. The first is to make the media production folks happy, if that's even possible. The concept here is pretty simple. They patch their production workstation into RidePlayer and hear their content on the actual audio system. This allows the content to be tweaked and dialed in without having to push a single file to RidePlayer or rewire the audio system. Once the content's good to go, WAV files can be exported and pushed to the RidePlayer with absolute confidence that they will sound identical to the workstation output. Let me show you how this works with a simple example. To get started, we're just going to launch Windscript live here. And the first thing you should check is just to make sure you're running Windscript version 5.13.0 or newer. And it's also good to make sure your device is loading that same firmware or newer as well. So you can see here that my RidePlayer is running 5.13.0. Very important. This feature is new, so you want to make sure you have the latest version that supports it. Okay, aside from that, I've already gotten started here on creating a script that's very similar to the other scripts we've worked with in this course. My intention here is pretty clear. I've got a timeline for scene 1, and I want to play a 4-channel audio track here. The only problem is I don't have the content yet because the media producer has not given it to me. That's the situation we're in here now. So what we want to do is set up the RidePlayer so that they can preview their content as they're editing it through the actual audio system. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add that into the initialize routine here. I always have something like this, an auto start sequence. What we do is just create a new event that's very familiar called play audio. So play audio is the same event we use to play audio clips that are stored on RidePlayer. It's also how we start our Dante inputs. So we pick the Dante input that we want to route, and we pick the output we want to route it to. So I want to route Dante input 1 to my front left audio output. I want to enable mixing because we're going to eventually be playing audio over top of this later. And that's that simple. So I'm going to duplicate this 4 times because I've got 4 audio channels I'm dealing with in this particular situation. So I've got a front right, a left surround, and a right surround output. And I want to route Dante inputs 2, 3, and 4 to those outputs. So there we go. I'm just going to go ahead and connect this to the RidePlayer and load my script. There we go. Now the sequence is automatically run, and the quickest, easiest way to see that it's working is you will see audio outputs 1 through 4 light up with a green LED indicating that they are outputting audio. In this case, coming from our Dante inputs. So what's cool is that you can actually just leave that on all the time in this situation. You have the option to turn it on and off if you want to. You could just use the stop command to kill those audio inputs. But if nobody's patched into those inputs, it's not going to hurt anything. You're just going to get no audio being routed to those outputs. So it's a cool thing to just leave on. That's why I put it in the initialize routine. Okay, so that's it for the Windscript side of things for now, anyway. Let's go ahead and minimize Windscript. And what we want to do now is kind of show the perspective of the media designer. So what they're going to want to do is download and install Dante Virtual Sound Card. Looks like this. It is a paid product. They'll give you a free trial, but you can do a license for about $49-$50, something like that. And it's pretty simple. It just makes it so that your computer can output Dante directly. So a good match for RidePlayer is doing a 16:16 Dante interface, since RidePlayer is 16 channels. So what you want to do is just go ahead and you do need to be connected to the network audio port of RidePlayer in some way. I don't want to dive into the details of networking in this lesson, but you just got to make sure that the Workstation computer and RidePlayer's network audio output and input are on the same subnet. They're networked together. So once you have that set up, you just go ahead and hit start here. And you want to make sure that your audio workstation is outputting audio to the Dante Virtual Sound Card like that. Okay, so I'm now outputting audio from my workstation PC. What you want to launch next is Dante Controller. This is Audinate's app for routing things together and setting up your Dante devices. So I've got two things on my audio network here. I've got my RidePlayer and I've got my MacBook here. So I want RidePlayer to be the receiver of the audio coming out of my MacBook, the transmitter. And so I'm just going to patch channels 1 through 4 here, like so. Okay. That's all there is to that. Next, we're going to launch our audio editing software, whatever you prefer to use. I'm going to use Audition for my example. So this part's going to vary depending on the software, but all of these software packages have a way of routing channels. You can see here that I'm doing more than just a simple stereo. I'm doing a quadraphonic here, so left, right, left surround, and right surround, 4-track audio. I want to make sure that I patch those audio channels properly to the Dante output from the computer. So the way that's done is by setting your audio channel mapping here. And you can see that I'm routing front, left, and right to Dante channels 1 and 2. And I'm routing my left surround and right surround to Dante channels 3 and 4. That will ensure that they get routed to the proper RidePlayer input. Okay. After that, I'm free to do my audio editing thing. So as I play things, they will make sound through the actual RidePlayer outputs. So maybe I decided that sounds a little soft. So let's amplify. You can tell I am not an audio content producer. I only make these terrible videos. So, all right, we'll give that a listen. Yeah, a little louder. You get the idea. So the audio producer will then do whatever they see fit to make the audio sound as good as possible. And then after that, all they have to do is save and export their clip. Like so. All right, so that about does it for Audition. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that. Here's the file that I exported. I just need to get it to RidePlayer. So what I'm going to do is bring Windscript back up. Crack open the media files list here. And I'm just going to grab this guy. Drag him right into my project. See, it's pushing to the RidePlayer unit right now. All right, back to my sequences. Here's my timeline where I was waiting for that 4-track file. Now that I have it, I'm just going to click over here, drag it to my timeline. And let's go ahead and give it a listen. Pretty cool. Sounds just like the real thing. All right, real quick, just to show you something else that's cool, is like I said, this audio input function for Dante works a lot like playing a file. So if I were to go over here to the audio dashboard, I can actually see my Dante channels being routed to my first 4 channels in RidePlayer. In fact, if I come back here into Audition and play it again, I can even see the levels popping up over here on the right. I'm playing a little quiet so you can hear me, but see how that's jumping around as well. If I play any files locally, they will be mixed with these. So for example, if I come back to my timeline here and I hit play, this is going to sound terrible, but it will mix them together on those outputs. So pretty cool. All right, another thing that's important to note here is that my network audio inputs are also fed through the gain stage for RidePlayer's outputs, as well as the DSP. That was not the case before with the network audio bypass mode we supported. Now, your network audio inputs will sound exactly like the WAV files that you play and be applied to the same gain and DSP filters. So, for example, I can add a low-pass filter here. All right, go ahead and apply it to my first 4 channels. And I'll notice an immediate difference in my audio output. Only getting those lows now. So keep that in mind. And obviously adjusting the volume as well applies to the network audio input too, and players. So very cool. Game engines are also a popular addition to some interactive ride-based attractions. The network audio input feature of RidePlayer allows you to mix audio effects from a separate game engine system, while still managing all of your synchronous control, playback, and system monitoring from RidePlayer. Since gaming engines are often PC-based, this feature works in a very similar way as the production workstation. Dante Virtual Sound Card would serve as a great solution to patch audio from the output of the gaming computer into RidePlayer. Pretty cool, huh? But wait, there's more. When combined with our network audio-enabled V-Page stations, this feature can also be used to implement paging on board your vehicle. This is super useful for applications like parking trams or tour vehicles where you have guides or operators that need to make announcements to the guests on board. Let me show you how this works. All right, first things first, what I need to do is add my V-Page to my audio network that connects to RidePlayer. Once I do that, it shows up in the Dante controller network like this, so that I can patch V-Page to one of the RidePlayer inputs. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my RidePlayer inputs here, and my V-Page transmitter here, and I'm going to go ahead and route V-Page channel 1 to RidePlayer channel 1 input, like so. That's all there is to that. Okay, to interface RidePlayer to the V-Page, I just need to add it as a device. So here I've added the Alcorn McBride V-Page, and I've named it VP4X, and it's at 192.168.100.151. So easy. Once I do that, I get access to some pretty cool commands. So for example, I can set those front panel buttons to any value, color, or flash rate that I want to. So I'm just turning them all on to green. Looks a little like this. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and create these 2 sequences here. One that I'll run when the paging starts and one that I'll run when the paging ends. So we can see over here I'm triggering off of an input that comes from the V page called PTT microphone status. So that goes high or on whenever the operator presses the page button, okay, on the side of the mic. Okay, that triggers this. And I do a few things here. So first thing I do is I'm playing background audio, that little jungle track. So what I'm going to do is fade it down, duck the audio. So I'm going to drop it to negative 16 dB over a period of time of 1 second. After that, I'm going to go ahead and activate Dante input 1 and route it to my 4 speakers. Pretty cool. And it will mix with that background audio. And then last but not least, I will make some changes to the LEDs on the vPage unit itself so we can see some kind of reaction. So I'm changing them all to red from green. Pretty easy. When the page is complete, I pretty much do the opposite steps. So I fade back up that BGM player to 0 dB. I stop audio from Dante input 1. That effectively cuts off my microphone audio. And then I restore the vPage indicators back to green. Cool. Enough talking. Let's see it work in action here. All right, I'm going to go ahead and start that background music. Take a look in here. Okay, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, as we enter the Nile River, you'll notice that it goes on for Niles and Niles and Niles. And if you don't believe me, you're in denial. Pretty cool. Alright, before we part, I just wanted to show you guys one more cool thing. It has nothing to do with network audio input. But, you know, while we've got a vPage hooked up to RidePlayer and we're doing really cool things, why not? So what I wanted to show you is that you can use the buttons of vPage to actually trigger little effects within RidePlayer. You can actually trigger anything, but here's a practical thing you can do. You've noticed that I've created 2 sequences down here called FX Elephant, FX Monkey, and I've routed them to buttons 1 and 2 on the VP4X. So, a little press-a-roo right here. And we can spice up our cruise a little more. Within the sequence, it's just a simple play command. I'm playing an elephant wave file on board. So, easy stuff, but super useful. What's really cool about this approach to onboard paging is that you can scale up your system to use multiple paging stations with nothing more than network cables. Well, folks, I'm afraid our cruise has come to an end. As we approach, please notice that there's a dock on the left and a dock on the right. But don't let it confuse you. It's just a paradox. I want to take a moment to thank you all for being outstanding. But now, it's time for you to be outstanding on the dock. That means get off my boat. Thanks for cruising with me today, and we'll see you on our next adventure.